be second, third generation Americans, and they'll be intermarrying, and they'll be having mixed children, and it's the American story, and so the transmission will continue. And what you're now seeing is a lot of the people like me and others who, for whom the teachings were, essentially a science of spirituality, who meditated, and they do yoga asanas, maybe some kirtan, and they'll study the texts. They're serious about their spiritual lives. Some of people in that category are now seeing, wait, there's a Hindu temple up there. It's Shivaratri. I think I'll go. I'll check it out. Or, I'm getting married. Maybe I'll ask them to do a puja. And so the aspects of the Dharma that were more traditional, more Indian, and not adapted to American life are starting to be understood and participated in to a certain degree. And it's a fascinating thing to observe. And I made a prediction the other day to a scientist friend of mine who actually is doing research at SVASA, the Vivekananda Yoga Research Place in Bangalore. And I said, somebody should do some scientific research on kirtan and pujas and yagyas. He said, oh yeah, we're looking into that. And that's probably what's some of the future of this integration of science and spirituality and East and West and old and new, that is, I think, reshaping religion and spirituality in the world. And if it's true that what Americans do today, the world does tomorrow, then maybe Americans somehow will. Now, I have to say this. I came here to India, and I was just, I'm promoting a book, and I wanted people to know how much their heritage has affected American life. And I found that I'm being told that, please say something to our young people, because they all look to America now, and they're turning their back on their own Dharma. And I said, I don't want to be in that position, but I am. And I thought about it, and I thought, as I said earlier, okay, if you're going to look to America because it seems so glamorous, and you watch American movies and television and everything, and you want to advance materially like Americans have, be very careful about what you take. Take the technology, leave behind, don't take the greed and materialism, and the bad eating habits, I joke, but it's true. Most Americans I know who are health conscious eat more like Indians. We don't eat McDonald's. We eat rice and vegetables. But the interesting thing is, one thing that America is good at is innovation, and this open-mindedness that Vivekananda noticed 120 years ago is still alive. And we're the laboratory of the world. We try new things, we invent new things. If the evidence shows that they work, we embrace it, we adapt it to our way of life, and in many cases sell it to the rest of the world, for better or worse. And we do that with homegrown inventions, but we also do it with things we import. No one in the world knew what pizza was until America discovered pizza and sold it to the rest of the world. And Italy hasn't made a dime in royalties. But I'm starting to think that if I could tell people anything, that if I don't want to be presumptuous, but the irony is that one of the things America has done is prove through its own experience that Sanatana Dharma is not a relic of the past. It's not a museum piece. It's not just something, for Sanskrit scholars to study as, the ancient philosophy. It's relevant to our lives now. It has been adapted to modern life by large numbers of Americans. And we've done scientific studies that prove it has value. It does not. There used to be the thought that these yogis and meditation and spirituality would detract from material life. But we found it doesn't. It enriches it. It makes it better. We have corporations in Wall Street and Silicon Valley that have meditation rooms and bring in yoga teachers because there's value. Health insurance companies know that you save money on healthcare costs if you have these yoga practices in your life. I just recently got a healthcare a mailing from my healthcare provider advising that I take up meditation for stress release. And I thought, you're 45 years too late in my case, but it's good that this has happened, because it's an evidence-based world, and that's my phone. My God, I didn't even. I violated my own principle. Anyway, I think this assimilation and adoption of Vedanta and yoga in particular, but more and more the Sanatana Dharma by Americans, is kind of a test case that if you're going to emulate anything, emulate that. We took your tradition seriously enough to integrate it into our lives in a serious way. So if young people want to imitate Americans, they should imitate the celebrity gurus and people like Oprah, not, greedy, alcoholic, unhealthy people. I'm going to conclude the way I concluded American Veda by quoting the great historian Arnold Toynbee. Because I wanted to say something like this at the end of my book, but I figured I'll let somebody who's one of the most distinguished thinkers of modern age say it instead of me. And so I'll end with this. Toynbee said in 1969, "It is already becoming clear that a chapter which had a Western beginning will have to have an Indian ending if it is not to end in the self-destruction of the human race. At this supremely dangerous moment in human history, the only way of salvation for mankind is the Indian way. Here we have the attitude and the spirit that can make it possible for the human race to grow together into a single family, and in the atomic age, this is the only alternative to destroying ourselves." Now, and I feel the same way, but I'm not saying it as gratuitously. The teachings are there, but they have to be applied and lived, and that's our responsibility. Because a Christian could easily say, "Oh, Jesus' teachings is the way to save the world." Well, yeah, if you really did it the way he did it. But if you're going to apply it the way you've been doing it, I'm sorry, it's not the same thing. And these teachings, it's up to us to apply and adapt to the modern world in a way that that keeps the teachings alive and relevant in people's lives without corrupting them and diminishing their integrity in the process of modernizing. With that, I will, in the spirit of Reverend Eddie Smith, say namaste. I thank you for having me.
If any of you have questions, we can take questions. Yes. habits and mutual respect to different religion be the solution to the problems that world and humanity is facing? Mukul Shukla.
Did you say food habits?
Yes, food habits and mutual respect to different religions.
Those would be nice. Better food habits and mutual respect. But I'm not going to comment on food habits, but they're a factor. There's a lot of factors that would make the world a better place. But with respect to this business of mutual respect, I'm involved with a lot of interfaith work in the U.S. And one of the things I've noticed is a growing mutual respect, at least in America, or at least in the big cities of America where people have exposure to people of other traditions. That kind of interaction does work. But there's more to it than that. This isn't in the question, but I want to say it. One of the things I've learned is that, it's one thing to have nice conversations among people of different religious traditions, and it's good, it creates friendship, it removes ignorance. But what really powerful is when you get people together of different religions and let your hair down a little bit and share practices, not just theology, not just beliefs, not just, we celebrate this holiday and you celebrate that holiday. But I've been in groups where people have shared their meditation forms, their methods of prayer. I've been in rooms with Sufis teaching Sufi dancing, and yogis teaching some form of asana or meditation. When you share practices, you end up sharing a deep inner experience, and that's even more powerful than just being nice to each other. And because it's really on the deep level of how spiritual practices affect our lives that you really find the unity of that the yoga tradition points us to. That's my take.
The next question is, can you please explain what you meant when you said what religion should be rather than what religion is?
The people were paying attention. I think one of the things that Vedanta and yoga especially have taught people in the West is that religion can be, you don't have to leave religion to be spiritual. You can be spiritual and religious, but that requires a shift in what religion is and how it is being expressed. If religion is only, I believe this and I pray once in a while, and what Vivekananda called shopkeeper religion, you pray for what you want and hope God gives it to you, then it's superficial religion. What came to so many of us in the West with the exposure to Hindu and Buddhist Dharma was that religion can be a path of great transformation of life, not just a community to belong to, or a book to inspire you, or hope that you will one day be saved. It can be a living reality that transforms your life minute to minute and day by day, and brings you to the highest levels of realization if practiced in a deep way. That's what I meant by the Sanatana Dharma teaching us what religion can be. And that message has been heard by an awful lot of Christians and Jews in the West who have taken the principles of yoga and Vedanta seriously into their own traditions and have deepened their own. I have a Christian friend, for example, who always talks about how his Buddhist practices and teachings have deepened his Christianity and his relationship to his Ishta Devata, which is Jesus. People actually use that term sometimes now. And that's what I meant by what religion can be.
Okay, I'm just sieving through many of this. So I'm
Pick
just
the
sieving.
ones that have rupees attached to it.
How have you adopted yoga? How have you adopted yoga on a daily basis in US? He is asking in general public.
Me
And how-
personally?
No, I presume it is for the American public. And how has yoga and meditation changed you?
Changed
You? I think you have
me.
replied
Okay,
this.
so this is about me personally. Well, back in 1968, after the Beatles phenomenon, I had been reading a lot. I had started a Zen Buddhist practice. It just wasn't working. And I decided I needed to learn to meditate. And so I tried out Mahesh Yogi's Transcendental Meditation. I tried a few other things too from books. And that worked for me. It was a very powerful traditional form of mantra meditation. I took it up. It was transformative in my life. I added some asanas and pranayama to it as a daily practice. I ended up becoming a teacher of Transcendental Meditation. Spent a few years in the 70s working with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi and that organization, and then just sort of went out on my own. I've tried many